if you're gay, you know that gay sex is one of the most unnatural things ever. And if you're a bottom, then it's probably pretty painful. And if you're a side, you know how boring and unsatisfying and just bad it is. So I thought I'd share my experience with gay sex, just talking openly about it. I don't see a lot of gay men talking about it. In fact, it feels like a lot of gay men kind of sexualize the different positions, especially being a bottom, and it turns out a lot of them don't bottom, probably because it's very, very painful. But before you even get into bottoming, you have to decide who's the bottom, who's the top. And when I was in Atlanta, this was like the most awkward thing ever, because we're kind of sitting there, we're cuddling, we're kissing, we're feeling each other. But obviously he's shorter and more muscular, but I'm taller and also pretty masculine as well. So it's like, who's gonna bottom, who's gonna top? You just don't know. It's like the most awkward dance ever. You know what I mean? Like something is gonna happen, but like who's gonna make it happen? So you kind of have to plan it. You can't really do a spur of the moment kind of thing like if you were in a straight, relationship. And it's just really awkward for me because I'm usually a thin dude, but I don't like bottoming. So what ends up happening is like this awkward position where I'm supposed to be like the dom one, but the person is very muscular and clearly probably weighs more than me, and like is like clearly it's like the most awkward thing ever. So that leaves one option, which is being worshipped. And I like being worshipped. I don't mind being worshipped, but it's just the most awkward thing afterwards, because it's like, okay, so this guy, this big muscular guy is gonna worship and do whatever I tell him to do. It kind of takes away the masculinity, it kind of takes away all of the dynamic, and it just kind of fizzles out. You know what I mean? It's not a very like lasting thing. It's more of like a last resort. And it ends up just being very, I don't know, humiliating, kind of like shameful, very just, I don't know, feminizing, and you don't feel very masculine. So I've always told myself like I'm never gonna bottom again. And every time it's just this awkward position. And if I do end up bottoming, it's gonna be very painful. I'm not very good at relaxing, if you can't tell. But even if I was, a lot of gay men, the reason they have so much sex is because they're on so much drugs. They're on so many drugs. They are drunk. They are taking all kinds of things, including things that make you relax down there. That's why they're so popular in the gay community. And a lot of gay influencers, sexualize themselves, make them this like super sexy kind of, in their Speedos, in their jock straps, right? And then you realize like a lot of them aren't having like gay sex normally. You know what I mean? A lot of gay men don't bottom. And a lot of people, I don't think it's a bad thing, point out that, it's an exit. It's not an entrance. It's like not made to happen. Even if you have unlimited lube, unlimited time to douche, clean yourself out, it's still not a pleasant experience. Or at least I'm assuming it's not a pleasant experience because I don't have much to compare it to. And, if you're getting older in age, a lot of them suffer from like anal prolapse and are wearing diapers around the house. And it's just sad, dude. And if you don't want to bottom, you don't want to top, you don't want to decide, you don't want to make decisions. Okay, yeah, cuddling is pretty nice. Or you can be a side, which just means you're not doing any kind of receptive penetration or giving of that penetration. And being a side is cool and all, but what happens is it ends up a very, very boring experience. You feel very, very unfulfilled. You feel very unsatisfied, assuming that you even finish. I mean, at that point, it's probably better just to, do it yourself. Like, there's nothing really that special about being a side. And what's even worse than being a side is being a monogamous side. It's like, when I was with the guy in Atlanta, one of the things I asked him, I was like, hey, do you have like a third? We had just both eaten a big Mexican dinner. And of course, if you have a big dinner, which is another issue, it's like, okay, well now neither person is going to be bottoming. You know what I mean? Like you could go out to a nice fancy dinner, you get back and it's just not going to happen. With nature, it's just not going to happen. So this guy was very into monogamy, raised a Christian, and I found that very interesting because a lot of men in the South, especially in the Bible Belt, are very monogamous, which is a whole nother topic, but they're very monogamous, which I respect. That's great. But if you want to top someone and you guys both don't want to bottom and you both had Mexican, I think that's a great time to bring in a third. Why can't we bring in a third and we just take turns? And he found that very offensive. And he proceeded to tell me that he only has anal if he's been in a relationship. And that was the second night I slept with them. So I was a bit upset. But anyway, I just get really annoyed with the whole side culture because I kind of see how it could work, but you're just like sacrificing a lot. You're sacrificing the main thrill of having sex. And for a lot of dudes and women and everyone, it's very unfulfilling. It's very boring. It's very unsatisfying. It makes you just like want to lay around, sit around all day. We literally cuddled for like 2 or 3 hours. Not even exaggerating. We fell asleep like 1:30 a.m. just cuddling, kind of foreplaying, but we just never got to it because we had Mexican. And then we had like a bit of an argument where I felt very offended that he just wanted a monogamous relationship and we weren't going to have anal sex. So yeah, this is why gay sex sucks. I don't have much to compare it to, but if you're with a woman, I'd assume like the woman is always going to be the submissive one. They're always going to be on the bottom, which takes the guesswork out of it. It's way more natural. You can go out to a fancy dinner and still have sex. You know what I mean? It works better. And I think it's really silly when gay men pretend that gay sex is the same as straight sex. My ex-boyfriend, not the one in Atlanta, but one from LA, really got upset when I kept calling it gay sex. He was like, why can't you just call it sex? And I kept calling it gay sex because it's just different. It's different. It's way freaking different. And I feel like people, especially gay people, should talk about it. I don't like how everyone's romanticizing gay sex. I feel like the only time they're romanticizing it is if they're lonely on Reddit, on social media, and they want to talk about how amazing it is, or they're talking to their friends, or they just had an amazing experience. But then it's like, okay, do it 2 times, do it 3 times, and then it's not as amazing. It gets really tiring really fast. But if you say that it's not amazing, then automatically you're like homophobic. You're like, they just don't treat you very well. And it's like, dude, like let's just talk about it. Like I hate how we just cannot talk about it. So today I was going to talk about it. I feel like people relate to it. They just won't say anything. So hope you enjoyed the video.